in some respects, the police brutality of the LMPD is not it's not surprising. Considering the history of Kentucky, you got 64% of Kentuckians who died in the War of 1812, which was Indian genocide. The Shawnee, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Uchee, Delaware, Creek Indians were all wiped out. So you got Indian genociders and Confederates. The Kentucky went Confederate after the Civil War, so they fought for Lincoln's army, but then they sided with the Confederates, and then there's lynching. So Kentucky is a nation of lynching, murdering Confederates and Indian genociders. And so when you see, the mostly white male LMPD murdering innocent black folks, that's a trend that we've seen before. It's a trend that we've seen historically for quite some time. And it doesn't just end with, I mean, they're arresting everybody, so it's not just the race thing, just kind of cuts the issue more clearly, and it's more defined. There's a article that was written by Jeff Chin. He was talking about how a Kentucky detective was demoted after he helped an inmate in Innocence Project. Okay, so not only are they killing innocent people, but they're convicting innocent people and throwing them in prison. So, Jeff Chin, October 15, 2012. Last week we told you about the story of Susan Jean King. So Susan King is a Kentucky woman who's convicted in 2008 for the 1998 murder of her ex-boyfriend, Todd Breedon. So they said that Susan King is the one that had murdered her ex-boyfriend in 1998. So recently, Susan King had her motion for a new trial denied in spite of the fact that Richard Jerrell had confessed to the crime. So somebody else, Richard Jerrell, says that he's the one who had murdered Todd Breedon, but Susan King's still in prison. Okay? So the confession had details not known to the general public, but was insufficient to win Susan King's freedom. The latest development in the case sets a bad example for how law enforcement agencies and innocence projects should cooperate and work together. Louisville Metro Police Detective Barron Morgan heard Richard Jerrell's confession, immediately informed the Kentucky Innocence Project. A circuit judge commended Morgan, an 18-year veteran, for acting with integrity and in the interest of justice. So you got good. You have a good police officer, Barron Morgan. Barron Morgan is a good police officer of the LMPD. We need more good folks. Okay, and this sounds very much like Christopher Dorner in California. He had pointed out that somebody had beat up a mentally handicapped man, and then by doing that, he was blackballed and then fired, and then eventually he went apeshit. It was his reputation that was on the line, and he didn't know what else to do. So you have Detective Barron Morgan, who's doing the same thing. He heard someone else confess to a crime that someone else had got convicted for, and so he reached out for people that could help. And the circuit judge says it was good. But however, instead of being lauded amongst the department, Barron Morgan was transferred from being a detective in a narcotics unit to patrol and assigned to the graveyard shift. So now he's, they're trying to, he was demoted. They're putting, I guess some sort of office duty, or just, trying to get him away from detective work. So that's fucked up. Details are coming to light as Barron Morgan is planning to file a whistleblower lawsuit against the department, alleging that the demotion was punishment for Barron Morgan's role in providing information to the Innocence Project. This is bullshit. He has to go through that. You got the truth and you got justice on your side. Why do you have to reach out to these other non-government entities within the department? They should care about justice and the truth, but they don't care about it. The police department denies Barron Morgan's claim and says that the transfer was part of a department-wide organization. Oh yeah, it had nothing to do with it, is what they said. So, I mean, it's from the details now being reported, it appears that Louisville Metro Police Chief Steve Conrad, lead case detective Todd Harwood, and the police department did not want Jerrell's confession to be known to anybody, especially the Kentucky Innocence Project. So they're trying to keep the truth hidden. Richard Jerrell murdered someone else, and so they are putting innocent people behind bars. Susan Jean King is behind bars for something she didn't do. Whole story begins May 2012 when Morgan and other detectives interviewed Jerrell after arresting him on a weapons charge. Jerrell said he killed Breedon on his 21st birthday 13 years earlier and provided details about the murder. Morgan said he contacted the Kentucky Innocence Project after Harwood refused to interview Jerrell and told Louisville detectives that were opening a can of worms. Morgan later told the assistant chief in a memo, "Oh, you're opening a can of worms by pointing out a fucking innocent person. How dare you open up a can of worms?" Who gives a fuck about opening up a can of worms? You know, like what that's a stupid analogy, but it's also it just shows that they're covering up the thing. You open a can of worms because you're showing that somebody was innocent, put behind bars, and that somebody did something wrong, right? She was innocent. An innocent person should not be behind bars. That's what they're doing. Anybody that was part of her being behind bars should be made to held to account because they're in the wrong. Morgan said that when he re-interviewed Jerrell last week, Jerrell told him that Harwood had come to talk to him but given him the impression that he wanted him to keep his mouth shut. Harwood denied he discouraged Jerrell from cooperating but was unable to produce a recording of the interview, saying he'd lost his tape recorder. So that's fucking good. Harwood, Detective Harwood, Todd Harwood's the devil, okay? He's a white devil, doesn't give a shit. Todd Harwood is just trying to cover up the crimes. They said, oh, well, you know, I didn't try to intimidate him, but I also didn't record the damn thing either, right? So he didn't give a shit. He didn't get a testimony from the guy. He's just trying to, you know, they're just trying to cover their asses. They don't care about truth or justice. Morgan's superior officers were not happy with his contact with the Kentucky Innocence Project. Documents reviewed by Louisville's Courier-Journal show Morgan, 18-year-old department veteran, came under suspicion within the department for assisting King. So after he says, you know, points this out, the people are all pissed off about it. After the Kentucky State Police complained in May that the detective was interfering with King's conviction, which came after the crime went unsolved for 8 years, Conrad ordered an investigation according to documents which Morgan's lawyer, Thomas Clay, obtained under an open records request. I understand the need for justice, but I'm not sure I understand contact with an outside group before we know what we're dealing with, Conrad wrote to assistant chiefs on May 28th. So yeah, keep this all quiet, keep this on the hush hush, just tell us what's going on. Well, that's because he knows you're a corrupt bastard. Steve Conrad doesn't care about the truth or justice. Steve Conrad just wants to cover his department's ass to limit the liability and to put PR out there so people don't come out against them. They don't care about doing what's right. I mean, if you just was a good organization, you wouldn't have to worry about the PR. But they care more about the PR because they know they're a corrupt organization. Unless there is some compelling reason for Detective Morgan to contact the Innocence Project, we need to initiate an internal investigation to understand why he didn't treat the information in a confidential manner. So this is Steve Conrad, right? How dare you speak out above me? I'm the boss around here, and you're sitting there pointing out to other people. The next day, Major David P. Ray told Assistant Chief Kitten Buckner in an email that he had spoken to the Kentucky State Police Lieutenant Colonel and apologized on behalf of the LMPD for Morgan sticking his nose in this. We're sorry that Morgan stuck it. So they're apologizing for this shit because Detective Morgan actually saw a crime and he wanted the crime to be fixed. You got an innocent person in jail and he's trying to do something about it. And, you know, it doesn't matter. Steve Conrad doesn't matter if internal investigations or a merit board, it doesn't matter to any of you all. Y'all don't care about what's actually happening. You don't care about crimes that happen. I was robbed of $1,800 worth of stuff and y'all didn't give a shit. Y'all don't care about protecting and serving, you know, innocent people. You just care about fucking people's lives over and making yourselves feel like you've done something good. But you're not doing anything good by it. You're the violent ones. You're the ones initiate the violence. You're the one throwing, you know, you're murdering innocent people. Leon Brackens is dead, and now you're putting this Susan King in prison for something she didn't even do. So, you know, that's Steve Conrad that he wrote in an email to everybody. And the next day, you know, they apologized to the, you know, they apologized to the Kentucky State Police. We're sorry that he's doing this, and Police Chief Conrad said now the emails were only initial reaction and that Morgan should have taken the situation up to chain of command. However, Conrad's claim is contradicting a judge's statement that Morgan only shared a confession after consulting with the supervisor in the county Commonwealth's attorney's office. So he talked to the supervisor and he talked to the Commonwealth's attorney. The Commonwealth attorney didn't give a shit. The supervisor didn't give a shit. That's when he went outside the department. So Steve Conrad, you don't have the mechanisms to allow for somebody to be able to complain within your own department. That's why you need a Citizens Complaint Authority Board. That way a complaint will be filed and it will go somewhere. Someone needs to take the people's claim serious, okay? It's not, the cops aren't just 100% always right and the people are always 100% wrong. In fact, it seems like it's the exact opposite. So the Courier-Journal previously reported with King's conviction threatening to unravel, the Kentucky State Police contacted the Louisville Metro Police Department in May and demanded that it bar one of its detectives from cooperating with the Innocence Project. Testifying in July during a hearing on King's motion for a new trial, KSP Lieutenant Jeff Medley acknowledged that his captain ordered him to ask Louisville Metro Police commanders to call off Morgan because he hadn't investigated the case and didn't know the facts. So they're telling him, hey, back off, Morgan. You know, you don't know what you're doing, Detective Morgan. Barron Morgan, get on out, Barron. Whether Barron Morgan will prevail in his lawsuit remains to be unseen, but the King case raises a serious question. What is a law enforcement agency ethical and moral obligation to disclose evidence of factual innocence to inmates and their attorneys? That is, if you come across evidence that somebody's wrongfully incarcerated, should you tell somebody? According to Steve Conrad, you should keep that shit quiet. Don't tell nobody. Don't tell the Commonwealth's attorney. Don't tell supervisor. Don't tell definitely outside sources, because then that's when they'll find out what's going on. Common sense says absolutely yes in all cases. Yes, not what happened in Kentucky too. Many times failure to do so means that agency does not care if an innocent person is in prison. And they don't want to admit to the mistake of the inmate's original conviction. So instead of actually doing what's right, right and the wrong, they continue to wrong the wrong that they start. They just keep piling the wrong on top of the wrong on top of the wrong. They're corrupt, bad people. They have no principles. They got no morals. They do whatever the fuck they want to do. They have no sense of right and wrong. They have no sense of justice, and they don't give a shit about the truth. They only care about covering their buddies' asses up. They threw an innocent person in jail. They should be responsible for it, but they want to pretend like they had nothing to do with it. So the California Innocence Project, we try to form a cooperative working relationship with the police department or the district or state's attorney offices whenever we're investigating a case or start a litigation proceeding. Sometimes we get cooperation, as in the Brian Banks case, and sometimes we don't, as in the Daniel Larson case. Our goal is to find out whether the state has convicted the right person, if they've been convicted or not, and hopefully give the state information as to who the real perpetrator is. Innocent person in prison means that the real criminal could be in the community committing more crimes, but the actions of the Louisville Metro Police Department show a lack of concern for finding out the truth about a conviction and has the danger of discouraging others like Detective Morgan from coming forward to help innocent projects find the truth. Kerry Porter, in prison for murder, is exonerated, freed after 14 years. So that's somebody else. Kerry Porter was put into fucking prison for murder, exonerated, free after 14 years. So they had to serve 14 years in jail when you're an innocent person. 14 years. They stole 14 years of the motherfucker's life. For what? Because we have bad cops? Because we have shitty police out here, just rogue military force doing whatever they want to do? After serving 14 years behind bars for a murder he insisted he commit, a stunned Kerry Porter learned Monday he was exonerated, and hours later he was released from prison. So this is another innocent person that was put in prison in Louisville's system. Okay, so you had Susan King and Barron Morgan, who came out and told the truth, and now you got this person here. You got Kerry Porter. This man, he was virtually speechless. So Kerry Porter's a man who was put into prison for 15 years. Melanie Lowe, who won Porter's exoneration after a 5-year battle, he said he has taken a lot in, and he was a little nervous about returning to the real world because he's never seen a cell phone or seen a flat screen TV. That's how long he's been behind bars. Jefferson Circuit Judge Irv May signed an order dismissing Porter's conviction, ordered him released immediately and without delay in the 1996 murder of Tyrone Camp. So that came after Commonwealth's attorneys Dave Stingel agreed to clear Porter. We have finally come to the conclusion that Kerry Porter did not commit the offense, Stingel said at a news conference. Porter, who was serving 60 years, he was going to be in there for another, 44 years more. His whole life he's going to be behind bars for something he didn't even fucking do. And I bet they try to cover this shit up too, right? Who gives a fuck? They threw an innocent person in jail. Who gives a shit? Let him fucking hang, just let him fucking fry. Let him stay in the fucking clink. That's the fucking LMPD way. That's not justice. It's not truth. It's just we fucked up. We fuck up your life, and we will fuck up your life even more if you try to say we fucked up your life. So, of course, you should never even... These guys are bad people all the way around. You don't want to get involved with these people. They'll convict you whether you're innocent or guilty. It don't even fucking matter. Porter, who was serving 60 years for murder at the Eastern Kentucky Correctional Complex in West Liberty, and would have been eligible for release until 2040, has always maintained that the man, Juan Leotis Sanders, was responsible for the killing. So he's got a finger on who actually did it. Stingel said his office hopes to charge others for murder and has several suspects whom he wouldn't name. Lowe and Porter's mother, Janice, both cried when Lowe shared the news that Porter be freed. I said, I got a Christmas present for you. You see, my baby. In an interview, Janice Porter credited Lowe and assistant public advocate for the Kentucky Innocence Project, Courage Journal, with helping win her son's freedom. I'm elated and thankful. All grace and glory be to God. The prison said he was released Monday afternoon. Stingel announced in August that he was moving in the wrong direction of clearing Porter, although earlier this month that his office would be expected petition to free him. In a joint motion seeking the dismissal, Stingel and Lowe said the new evidence had come to light, which would have had a reasonable certainty change the outcome of Porter's trial in 1997. So... Let's look at the evidence. First, Louisville Metro Police recently obtained a statement that clearly implicates a different person. Second, testing on the duct tape used to make a homemade silencer left on the crime scene revealed DNA that belonged to another man who was not identified. Citing a pending investigation, Stengel would not identify the witness. So fucking Stengel, he's just covering up the fucking crimes and shit. It seems like David Stengel is not a good Commonwealth's attorney. He's just fucking, he don't care about truth or justice. He just gives a shit about covering up the fucking criminal actions of the fucking boys in blue. And he did that several times. There was, what, 5 or 8 or 9, 10 young black men that got shot, and David Stengel didn't give a shit. He says there was no wrongdoing in any of those cases. Really? They never make a mistake? And it's not a mistake. They're fucking systematic criminals. It's institutionalized.